Welcome to the I Fired My Boss franchise podcast. My name's Dan Claps, founder and CEO of Franchise Playbook, a franchisor platform where we create, own, and operate dynamic franchise brands in the mobile services space. And my life's goal is to help people just like you fire their boss and become a business owner.
And I'm Christian Dadalak, top franchise consultant and co-founder of Real Franchising, a leading franchise consulting firm. And together, we're on a mission to help people fire their boss, hire themselves, and live the American dream through franchise ownership.
Welcome to another episode of the I Fired My Boss podcast with your host, Dan Claps here. Very excited for this episode. Going to be doing a solo episode. It's interesting. I'm sitting here. It's Monday, June 9th. I was just celebrating my birthday over the weekend on June 7th, which was great. And I'm in the office for only one day before leaving tomorrow to head to Wisconsin for our first ever Voda annual conference, our Voda 1 conference, which I'm super excited about. We've got hundreds of people coming between our vendors, of course, our franchise partners, their teammates, our teammates, and just really excited to dig into that. And so I was thinking about, what makes me so excited to go to this conference. And it all has to do with culture. And so I really want to center this episode around building culture and some of the things that we do at Franchise Playbook and at Voda that I think you can apply to your business or potential future business that really makes a huge difference. And so I'll start with talking about it's really the small things that build a great culture. And so when I think about what I do day in and day out, I'd say that 80 to 90% of my time is spent on building culture, on building the team and creating an environment where people can work and thrive in their work. And so how do you do that? So to start, I think the first thing that's most important is to understand that your job as the leader is to focus on the people. Your job is to help get great people into the room. As a CEO, you want to get great people in the room, make sure they're working together really well, and then get out of the way. And so how do you do that? Well, the first thing, I highly recommend you invest in learning how to do it. One of my favorite books on building a culture is The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. Great book. I also recommend reading, I think it's The 4 Temptations of a CEO. And they're both on building great teams. And great teams start by the simple things. Great teams start with people like each other. They want to be around each other. They respect each other. And so you need to spend a lot of time fostering an environment where people are spending time together, whether that's going to the gym together, doing team bonding exercises, working out, problems together, doing an escape room, doing team dinners and parties, celebrating together. You need to create an environment where people know each other, like each other, and trust each other as a team. But I think what's more important than that is culture is not really the, water cooler, in your, having kegs in your office or having beanbag chairs. Culture is built when you create an environment where people love each other and they respect each other. And so the first thing you need to understand is that you have to create an environment where people have psychological safety, where they feel comfortable with their job and they feel like they're being treated properly. And the second thing you want to do is you really want to focus on creating an environment where everyone can have constructive and almost arguments. You want to have teams where there's groups of people. I love the Jeff Bezos saying you never want a meeting to be more than the amount of people that can eat 2 pies of pizza. But you want to create an environment where everyone in the team, from the junior to the most senior person, can share their thoughts and they can share healthy debate and healthy conflict. You want to get to conflict quick. You don't want to build an environment where everyone's just a yes man or woman just telling you what you want to hear. So one of the things that we do at Voda and Franchise Playbook that I think really helps with this is whenever we are in a meeting, we share an idea, and then we like to get the feedback from everyone on the team. What we try to do as the leadership team is junior people go first, whether it's junior in their career or junior to Voda. The people that are newer, you want to have them go first. And the reason why is the people, a lot of times when they hear their boss say their opinion, they're typically going to sometimes change to kind of side with that. And what it does is it creates an environment where you're not getting unbiased feedback. You want to get the feedback from the junior people first, because first of all, they're going to have great ideas and you want to hear their input. Then the layer of leaders above them, then the layer of leaders above them. And then finally, if you're the CEO, you should chime in with your opinion last. This is going to allow you to create an environment where people are truly sharing their inputs. And you'd be surprised, the people that are closest to the problem, they have the solutions. If you can just listen to the people that are in the business, in the day to day, you're going to find that if you lead from a bottom up type management, or if you think of like an inverted pyramid, that's how you're going to lead the company the best way. The next thing they have to do is you have to remember that feedback is a gift. And so in our team, one of our core values is to be caringly candid, which means I care about you, so I want to be candid, right? Think about when you give someone tough, news, or, you have to have a hard conversation. You want to be in a position where your company, people feel safe doing that. And so one of the ways that you do that is, first of all, you understand the idea that feedback is a gift. So that's number one. When you're getting feedback, when you're receiving feedback, it's a gift, not a negative. And so the only response to feedback is what? It's thank you, right? Because if people are truly trying to give you feedback in a constructive and polite way, you want to realize that it's a gift to get that feedback. And creating an environment where people are comfortable giving feedback all centers around the way that people respond to feedback. So if you're a leader and you're asking for feedback, but then you're being defensive or argumentative or, disagreeing with the feedback, of course you can share your opinion, but you have to create an environment where people are psychologically safe to share their feedback and they can do it with each other. So I highly encourage this type of culture. Junior people speak first. Everyone shares their opinions. You're getting buy-in this way. And then number two, that you're getting people to give feedback up, down, sideways. I don't care if you're the janitor, you can give the CEO feedback. It should be a concept of there's never a negative to giving feedback as long as it's done in a respectful and meaningful way. Another way that you build great culture is understanding that if you're hiring great people, you're hiring adults. They don't need to be, great people are self-managing. What I like to do is hire great people that are really smart, give them really delicious problems, really challenging problems to sink their teeth into, give them the resources they need, and then get out of the way. Give them your expectations and then get out of the way. And so what I think about is, as a leader, there's 5 things you really need to think about. Your job is to cast the vision and get people to see the vision. Number 2 is to secure buy-in, meaning they're bought into the vision. You do that by sharing your opinions around the company and having open feedback loops. 3, your job is to provide resources, whether that's financial resources, technology resources, human resources. Your job is to provide resources. 4, your job is to be a cheerleader, to celebrate the small wins, give gratitude to people for big things and small. You'd be surprised how far feedback of positive nature, giving compliments and praise will go. And then finally, your job is to hold people accountable around expectations, around standards, around the way of doing things. Those are the core functions of a CEO: creating great people, getting them in the room, casting a vision, securing buy-in, providing resources, being a cheerleader, and holding them accountable. Another way that you create great culture is understanding that you have to obsess over the customer, and you have to do that by listening to the customer. So you're listening to your teammates and you're listening to your customer. The best way to get to listen to your customer as you scale, obviously in the beginning, calling your customer and just listening to them, taking the time to show that you care. And as you grow, you want to create lots and lots of feedback loops, whether it's an NPS score, reviews, calling to follow up to see how the job was, doing different campaigns to collect and solicit feedback from your customers. Same thing with your team. One of the things I love to do is, we have feedback at myvoda.com, and I love to ask people, just like, give us your feedback. What's something we're doing in the company that's brilliant and we should never stop doing? What's something in the company that's so silly that we could change it would make a huge impact to either the business or your job as a teammate at the company? The greatest managers care about people for their career, not just the business. I'll give you a great example. Let's say I ask a teammate, like, hey, give me your feedback. Like, what's something in your job that's really great that you would never want to lose? And what's something in your job that's really silly that's going on right now? And let's say, for example, we ask the person to be in the office at 8:00 sharp, right? And they live maybe 30 minutes away. But when they leave at 7:30, they sit in an hour of traffic because that 7:30 to 8:00 window is crazy busy. So they end up in the car they have to leave at 7:00 to get there at 8:00. But it turns out if they got there at 8:30, 8:00, they miss all the rush hour and they could be in the office at 8:30. Right? They could leave at their house at 8 and be there at 8:30 and save a half an hour of silly, wasteful traffic. One of the things would be like, all right, like, well, what if you worked from, we do still want the day, you were going to start the day, leaving your house at 7:30 and then sitting in traffic for leaving at 7 and sitting in traffic for an hour to get there at 8 o'clock. How about instead you work from home from 7:30 to 8, right? You could spend that time for, we do expect you to log in at 7:30, but instead of commuting for an hour, you'll spend only a half hour. You start at 7:30, you can, 7 o'clock, you're home, 7:30, you log in, you check for emails, you do some things, and then you leave at 8 to be there at 8:30. This is an example of it's a simple solution to not wasting, 30 minutes extra per day, right? Let's say it's the same thing in reverse back. So an hour a day, that's 5 hours of time that you can get back for them to be productive and like their job. And it's, it's silly. 8:30 turns out that hey, you asked me to be there at 8:30, but no one's even there anyway. Right. So, or be there at 8, can I be there at 8:30 and work from home, and you're gaining back productivity. This is just a simple example. There's things in your business that are probably so silly that you're doing and you just don't know about it. So that's one of the easy ways to create culture. So again, it's the secure buy-in, cast a vision, secure buy-in, provide resources, be a cheerleader, hold people accountable, have junior people talk first, foster an environment where people care about each other and they can be caringly candid, where feedback is a gift and people receive feedback well, create an environment where people are psychologically safe, actually take an interest in their backgrounds, and create an environment where people can give you feedback solicited. You want to solicit as much feedback as possible, good, bad. What are you doing in the company that's great? What's something that you wish that we change? It's simple to change. Doesn't mean you change it, but you listen and you look for patterns, and over time you'll find simple things to make the job better for your teammates, which will in turn have them treat your customers better. One of the things we do at Voda that I love is our Voda Visions doc. We know our teammates all write down in a document that's shared amongst the company their vision for their life, their vision for their career, their monetary goals. Maybe they have a materialistic goal they want to reach, where they want to be in 5 years, what they need to learn to get there, and then clear KPIs to get there. This is what I need to do in the next 6 months to a year, and broken down by month. I want to save to buy a house. All right, well, let's work on how to get you there. These are the things that create culture. And then we have in that document what I need to work on, right? So if I asked you, where do you want to be in 5 years? I want to be X position. Okay, well, what do you need to learn and what do you need to work on to get there? And then let's invest the time and energy with you over the next 6 months, a year, whatever it takes to get you to become who you need to become to get what you want. Because in life, more times than not, you have to become the thing that you're trying to get before you get it, right? If I want to be, a leader, a better lead, CEO of a bigger company, I have to become that person first, whether it's studying, reading, self-awareness, learning to be able to lead that company, because your business will always be constrained at the level of development the leader at the top has done. Quick short episode. Thanks for joining this episode of the I Fired My Boss podcast. If you can, leave us a review, and we'll see you on the next one.
You're f***ing fired.
If you want to say those words to your boss, make sure you head on over to ifiredmybosspodcast.com and fill out the form to schedule a no-cost consultation. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend who might also want to fire their boss.